Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader. And today, folks, we are doing another I Interpret Your Cards video. So this is a video series where I receive your cards. You send me pictures of your cards and the question you asked, and I help you interpret your cards. So after my first video in this series, I received quite a few emails from you with pictures of your cards and the questions you were asking. And so I'm going to take up as many of them as I can in this video. So let's get right into it. We are going to start with a reading that I received from V. V is asking about a relationship she has with another woman, and she sends me this 9-card portrait, and this is the Red Owl deck, and her timeline is 2 to 3 months ahead. So I am going to read to you the question and background that she sent me regarding this 9-card portrait and regarding her issue in her relationships. She says, "Would you please help me interpret the following reading? I know that all the cards seem very positive, but I would love more insight. This is regarding the situation with me and my person now, so her relationship. She says, we are in a very difficult place and she broke up with me. We have been dating long distance as she lives in the US and I live in the UK. We saw each other once last August and we have not been able to see each other since. Over the last couple of months, we have been fighting a lot and there's been a lot of drama. She broke up with me and said she's burnt out emotionally from the relationship and the long distance. And so I haven't been myself since. So V has not been herself since. V says she is hoping to see her by the summer after the vaccine rollout, but I am really struggling with the current situation. She says, I asked the cards whether we will resolve the situation and date again, and I would appreciate your help. She says the situation is not entirely lost at the moment, but it feels bleak. There are doubts about her commitment to me, and she thinks we are not compatible as we've been having fights and arguments a lot lately. She said she drew some more cards today and they were all bad. She says she got the tower, the child, and the coffin, and later on she got the whip and cross. These were two separate drawings, and she says she knows she shouldn't be asking the same question repeatedly, but she had been feeling anxious. So here is the 9-card portrait that we are looking at specifically for V's question. And as you can see here, the cards look pretty positive. And that was actually the reason why V reached out, because she felt that the cards were a little bit too positive in the context of what was going on. So clearly, when you look at this, it seems that there is a potential for a relationship here. We have the book as the cover card, which does point to the fact that there's a bit of a mystery, some unknown factors. And this is the cover card. It covers the read D. But then we have the key and the ring. So this is really positive for a relationship. And we also have the man, key, and flowers, which is also very, very positive for a relationship. All the other rows are looking good. We have the book. I believe this is the dog and flowers. And we have the clover, key, and hearts. This is also great. And we have the man, sun, and ring. And when we look at the columns, they're also really, really positive. We have the book, flowers, and man. We have the dog, key, and sun, also really good for a relationship, for a friendship specifically. And the flowers, heart, and ring, which is very, very good for love. Now, regarding the man, I mean, this is a same-sex relationship for V and her girlfriend. And so, that's what I was saying in my man and woman significator video, that, they can sort of be used interchangeably, and it depends what you resonate with. That's what might come up. But like I said, the man and woman are neutral cards, and they get their characteristics from cards around them. So really, that is flexible. Now, truth be told, the cards are really, really positive for a relationship, for any relationship. And so V is wondering how these cards are possible in light of all of the challenges that she'd been having with the relationship. So when this happens, I think it's important to be realistic more than it is to be carried away by the cards when there are very obvious indications in real life that the relationship is not really going in the way like what the cards are saying. Then we need to change our perspective a little bit and adjust our interpretation of the cards. It's also possible that the cards should be redrawn. And it's also possible that the cards are a snapshot in time, and they can also represent the readee's intentions and hopes. So, what we need to do when we do these readings is we need to be in a space of neutral emotions. When we are feeling really charged up by a question or by a situation or issue, oftentimes it's going to affect what cards we pull out, and it affects the reading. So in other words, it biases the reading. And we should be careful about that. We should be careful that we are doing a reading out of a space of neutral emotions and neutral thinking in order to get as clear a reading as possible. So that aside, let's try to interpret the cards in light of V's situation in a realistic way. And there are a couple of things that come up for me in this sense. First, it's possible that the relationship is maintained as a friendship. So we have the dog, although the dog with the ring or the heart and ring point to love relationships and intimate relationships. The fact that we have the dog, key, and sun in the center here, it's possible that the focus is on the friendship. So it's possible that they resolve the issues from a broader relationship point of view, that it is not so much an intimate relationship anymore, but a friendship is maintained. At the same time, this is a really powerful line for love relationships. Another way that we could look at these cards in light of V's realistic situation is that there is a new relationship. And I am seeing that from the book. And the book is the cover card, which is a pretty key position for the reading itself as the portrait. So it's possible that V is in for a new relationship. And that is also a way to interpret the cards that aligns more realistically with what V is going on. Now, V did say that she drew other cards and she got some pretty challenging cards. She got the Tower, the Child, and Coffin, and then later on, she got the Whip and Cross. So these are very clearly cards that point to challenge and endings. Now, in the context of this portrait, if we're going to read the readings as layering over each other, this is not best practice because you should be able to ask the question only once. Then it does make sense to interpret everything as suggesting that V is in for a new relationship, that the current relationship ends, and that she moves into a new one. I also think that it's possible to heal the differences and accept that this relationship is not really workable. And as I said, a friendship is maintained. So this is how I would interpret the cards for V. I think the context is really what is going to guide us here. And I do think that if this was an overly positive spread, maybe V was not reading entirely out of a space of neutrality or balance. Still, these are really beautiful cards for a relationship, and I do think that some positive things can materialize for the both of them, for the two of them in this relationship. Okay, let's now move on to another reading. I have here a short line of 5. This was submitted by Marianna, and she is doing this reading for the next 6 months. And this is the old Arabian deck, which is pretty interesting. She says, "What does the future hold for me over the next 6 months regarding love?" So she says, I have a line of 5, and I always read the cards from left to right. So this is an open-ended question, very general. She's just focusing on the theme. She's telling us that this is for love. So the old Arabian deck is a little bit tricky. You can figure them out or figure out the cards from the numbers. So this is the rider. The first card is the rider. And then we have the snake. You can see this man here handling a snake. Then we have the star, which is number 16. And then we have the letter, which is number 27. And finally, the bird. So just looking at the bird and letter here, we have a clear indication of a message. I have to say that although there is a beautiful star right in the center here, I am a little bit cautious about the snake and the rider. So there seems to be someone who comes along in love, but he or she seems to be a bit of a charmer. The snake is someone who's deceptive, and in love, it's often associated with a love triangle. So that is something to be a little bit cautious about. But I have to say that because the star comes on the other side of the snake, so it comes to the right of the snake, it's possible that if there was ever an issue around this person, or if there were doubts about their intention, then these doubts can be resolved. And after the star, we have the message cards, the communication cards. And so there could be some news of someone coming through. Now, what's interesting about these cards is that we do not have a confirmation of a relationship. We're not seeing a ring, we're not seeing the man and woman, and we're not seeing something like the heart or the dog or something that indicates a connection. What we are seeing is that someone comes into your life, into Marianna's life, and it's to be explored and determined whether this moves into a relationship. So on the right-hand side of the line of 5, the emphasis is on communication. And the line actually starts with the writer, which is also a communication card. So I take this to mean that we're still in the exploration phase of the relationship. It's not like there is a commitment or that we settle in a relationship. Still, this can be a really exciting line. It's pretty clear that there are prospects coming in, and it's about exploring these options. So that's how I would read these cards. I would keep it open in this way. We don't really land on a relationship. We meet with prospects and options and possibilities when it comes to a new love. Now, Marianna has a second reading, and it is this one. It's another line or a simple line, but this time it's a line of 7. And she's using the Silson Lenormand, which is pretty interesting deck here. She says, my question was, what is my destiny or future as a writer? I've chosen this path a few years ago, but I'm always procrastinating for financial reasons. She would love some guidance in this regard. She says, I actually write very well and a lot, but there are too many obstacles in Portugal for writers when it comes to finding literary editors. You need to invest a lot of money and time. And so she says, recently, I've changed my career and decided to go back to university in 2022 to complete my studies. I feel it is my priority and that the book could wait. So she's wondering about her destiny, her future as a writer. What are her prospects in this area? Okay, so the cards are sun, snake, tree, tower, and then bear, moon, and book. Well, it's pretty amazing that we have the book and the cards when she is specifically asking about her prospects as a writer. So obviously, this is very well aligned with the question. Now, I would take this as a very supportive line. I know the cards are not specifically very bright and encouraging. There's something about them that looks a bit, in my opinion, in my feeling, it looks a bit dull. It reminds me a little bit of the of one of those earlier tarot decks, specifically this style here of the moon. But the sun, snake, and tree and tower are very supportive, as is the bear, moon, and book. So the moon and book suggests a proposal as far as I'm concerned. And with the bear and tower, this can be something like a publishing house, because the tower and bear are both about authority and organizations. And so in the context of writing, and she was making a reference to literary editors in her question, it's very possible that she does land a deal, or she finds an editor or someone in the industry, in the business, who would be willing to give her a book deal. It's very interesting. The moon is a card of proposals. And with the book, it emphasizes that element as well, in addition to the book representing her question really, really well. And with the bear, this can be a really important opportunity. Backing up a little bit earlier in the line, the sun, I really think it asks her to be optimistic about her prospects as a writer. It's just that the snake and tree can mean that it takes a bit more time. But I have to say, it's really interesting to find the snake and tree because this is the archetypal knowledge combination, this association of the tree of knowledge and the snake and the Garden of Eden and knowledge. So I think there could be a phase of delving a bit more deeply into this, or maybe Marianna needs to refine her book or improve on it. And the more general way to read these cards, especially with the tower in the middle, is that it can take a bit more time before this materializes. But honestly, I do think that this line is very supportive and that in time, she could land on the right people, the right editors who would give her a book deal, and she could get an opportunity in this way. So this is very encouraging in my opinion. I'm going to read a couple more short readings. I have two from Veronika. She has 3 card lines for me, and I think her deck is really cute, but I couldn't figure out what the deck was, and she didn't tell me. Still, this is a very interesting combination of cards here. Let's see what she had in mind. She says, the cards I got yesterday was Fish, Scythe, and Tower. So this is a simple daily reading. She says, the way I read these cards are money quickly to the bank. And it was payday from work yesterday. She says, can I read the scythe as quick or is it always something painful? And she says that receiving money in the bank is not painful. Of course, Veronika, you are right. The scythe does not always have to represent something painful. In my dictionary, it often represents something sudden. And I also think that the scythe on its own doesn't say much. It's more of a shock, an alarm, and possibly danger, but I usually need more cards to come to this understanding of the scythe. So really, on its own, the scythe doesn't say much. It takes more cards to get a sense of what it's about. And in your context, you've got the fish, which points to money, and then the tower here, which can refer to an institution, which in your context, Veronika, it refers to a bank. So, and yes, to answer your question, Veronika, the scythe does not always have to be read as something dangerous or painful. It can just point to something sudden. And in fact, I tend to read it like this more often than not. Now, Veronika has a second reading. It is also a 3-card line, and this is something she did for her friend, and it was also a daily reading. So here she has the scythe again with the coffin and letter. This is quite a powerful message. She says, we looked at these together, and at first we couldn't find anything in her friend's day, that matches these cards. But then later on, her friend tells her that she had been visiting her parents, but had to end the visit very suddenly because she started to feel bad. I take that to mean she started to feel unwell. She says, I can read the scythe and coffin as the sudden ending, but does the letter always have to be a written message, SMS or mail? Or can it also be an actual message of telling someone? So what she means here, what Veronika means, is if it's okay for it to be verbal. So yes, I would absolutely read these cards as aligning with her friend having to end her visit. And the letter can absolutely refer to something that you say verbally. Now, it's not generally the case, but it's okay to be flexible, especially when you're doing a short reading and there's only 3 cards in here. You want to be flexible with the cards. So I would say that, yes, this aligns really well with the idea that her friend had to cut short her visit and had to announce that she had to leave because she wasn't feeling well. Just a piece of guidance that I'd like to offer you when you are doing a day-to-day reading, a daily reading. The cards can be predictors of what's ahead, but I find that it's really helpful to take the cards as advice. So every day you open the cards and you get guidance for what's ahead for you during the day, in addition to the straight up prediction that the cards can do. So with something like the Scythe, Coffin, and Letter, I would say maybe it's time to get in touch with someone. Maybe we had been procrastinating, out of touch, and there's a pending communication or possibly some paperwork that is represented by the letter. And here things need to be brought to a head because of the coffin. So the cards can advise us to get going with this paperwork and to finish what we need to finish. So these are the readings that I have for you today, folks. I hope you've enjoyed them. If you want me to interpret your cards, then please send me an email with the details that I need from you. I need a picture of your spread. I would like you to tell me what deck you've used. Sometimes people have an interest in that. I definitely need to know what is the question or context that you asked, as well as the timeline if there is any. So you'll also find these instructions in the description box. So if you have a spread that you want me to interpret, you need a hand with, go right ahead and send it to me. I'm looking forward to them, and I'm looking forward to our next video together. So thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take very good care of yourself.